Hi, my name is Mark, and as you can see, we're back in the series where I compose a song and show you guys my process. Actually, I'm not really sure that we're that far from the ending. I think that we've gotten to an interesting spot. Again, if you haven't watched the other episodes, basically till now we've done an intro, a bridge slash main riff, we've done the first baby chorus, then we did verse 1, bridge from verse to chorus, first proper chorus, then bridge from the chorus to the second verse, and in this episode I don't think we should just get another chorus. I think it will get a little bit boring if we just go verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. I mean, sure, there are some bridges between stuff, but still, now that we finished the second verse, if we just had another bridge and then went straight to the chorus, I think it would sound a little bit boring to me, so I think that maybe we should do a bridge that either mimics a little bit of the intro, or maybe some of the other riffs we've done before, that either go to a solo section or perhaps like a breakdown part. I'm not yet sure, depends on what we're going to do today, but basically we're going to take, or at least I think we should take, this main section right here. Yeah, this part right here. And instead of doing it like a full-blown part, I was thinking of perhaps doing like a slower part with some contrapuntal stuff. In a way, sort of like, you know when they do these classical guitar arrangements? I'm thinking of doing something like it. But we'll get to it. For now, let me just show you what we're working with. Okay, so as you can see, that's what we're working with. Again, I don't really think the song is finished yet. At most, it's at halfway, I guess. But even though it's already too long to be like a mainstream song, like, let's be honest, this wouldn't be like a mainstream song anyways. And this is advice I can give to all of you guys, which is, don't just make shorter songs, like, since nowadays radio stations and Spotify playlists give much more preference to songs that are like 3 minutes long tops. You shouldn't really worry about that. In fact, it's because the mainstream media tries to make things short and fast that nowadays all of us need to do things short and fast. But anyways, that's not what we're going to talk about today. As I mentioned before, I was thinking of maybe taking this main riff right here and try to make it, I wouldn't say necessarily slower, but maybe lose some of those 16th notes and try to do something that's a little bit more calm, maybe. And try to make sure like that solo classical guitar sort of a thing, doing mostly like melody and then chord tones and melody and chord tones, kind of doing that one solo guitar band thing. For some of you it might be sounding a little bit weird, but don't worry, I'll explain it. But before I do, I just want to say please subscribe to my channel. As you're probably aware, YouTube acts a little bit weird. Even if you subscribe to the channel, those channel's videos may really not show up in your subscription box. And even if you ring the little notification bell thingy below, you still really will not be notified of that channel's content. So if you want to sit into my videos, not only do I suggest subscribing and turning on all the notifications, but also follow me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff there, like improvise solos and jamming over backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post it about my videos. Links for usual suspects will be below. But in general, at my English guitar, and since you're down there, please consider leaving a like and share this on social media. I'd highly appreciate it. And getting back to the video itself, as I mentioned before, I don't really think I'm going to do much. I'm thinking of maybe just copying this riff and pasting it right there at the end.
15 minutes later.
Okay, so I think we're in the right ballpark. If we come from this section, as we can see, we still have that same sort of a riff, but this time, as I mentioned before, I tried to remove some of those fast 16th notes and maybe do some breaks. And as I mentioned before, we're trying to do that classical guitar thing. I don't really have my classical guitar here, but let's see if I can manage something. Again, I know this isn't exactly the best camera angle, but let's say that I have a melody like, and if I just play the chords along with the melody, again, sorry about the bad technique, I'm just trying to make it a little bit louder so that the mic can pick it up. And again, that's one way to approach it, but I'm thinking of, instead of doing just chords and try to do the melody along with the chords, what about maybe try to do just root notes? Like again, that's the melody. And instead of me doing the full chords, maybe I just do the bass notes, like. Again, it's not necessarily the best idea, but it's an idea I have and I want to try it. So now that we have our melody, we need to have a bass line. And I'm thinking of maybe trying to connect this part with the intro, perhaps getting the chords of the intro and trying to do just their root notes.
5 minutes later.
Okay, so I think I have something I'm okay with. Again, let's go from the last part. Again, it's nothing special really. I'm still trying to do that chromatic walk line bass thingy from the intro, and in a way trying to have the bass line have a little bit of swing. And now I think I'm going to do the same thing again, but just like in the intro, the first time the melody goes around, the bass part goes down chromatically. This time thinking of maybe going up, doing some contrary motion between both times I do this little riff thingy. And yeah, some of you may be thinking what I'm thinking about right now, which is if what I'm programming here can be played on guitar. And I'm not sure about the specific notes, like maybe doing the melody as high as it is here might be a little bit of a problem. I'm not sure, I haven't really tried it, But hey, even if it is real hard, we'll figure it out when we record it. For now, we're just trying to compose something that we think sounds good. And again, it's not like this is something that's super hard to play. And to be honest, that's actually something that nowadays many composers struggle with, which is they try to compose something on paper, or in this case on the computer, and just type in the notes, and they don't really think about if the instrument they're writing it for can actually play these sorts of things. Again, in this case, I'm writing it on piano because, as I mentioned in the first episode, or maybe in the first notation video I made, I'm not really sure, I usually notate things on piano because I think that if I make a song just with a piano and it sounds good, when I try to record it on guitar and that's from extra layers and instruments and stuff like, and other instruments and stuff like that, it will probably work. I mean, if it works solo piano, if it's well arranged, it will work with other stuff. But if you write a song that only works when you have some extra stuff and doesn't work solo on piano or solo on guitar, then it maybe isn't that good of a song. Maybe that's a little disrespectful. It's probably not like as a song it's less good than the other ones, but it's at least different. But whatever, that's not what we're going to talk about today. As I mentioned before, I'm just going to copy this, try to change the bass line so that it goes up instead of going down.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so again, I think I have something I'm really okay with. Again, I'm not really sure how I'm going to play this on guitar because it has some interesting rhythms between the bass line and the melody that I'm not sure if I'm that used to playing, but again, that's not really a problem I have to worry right now. For now, I just need to finish the song, and after I finish then say, okay, I think it's a good song, then I'll figure out how to play it on guitar. And if I need to practice it for 3 weeks, then I'll practice it for 3 weeks. But again, let me just show you where we're at. Let me just play this last bar of the last part. Again, I don't really know about you guys, but I think it sounds cool. And again, it's sort of a production thing, but when we're recording this, because we're trying to sort of mimic the intro a little bit, we can perhaps add that melody that we had in the intro, this little part right here. Could perhaps have like either a synthesizer or perhaps some violin, something like it, something that's a little bit high and shrill, playing that at the same time as we're playing this part. As again, because I'm trying to mimic that sort of classical guitar thing, I'm trying to make it sound classical, but not too classical, especially because the intro is not exactly classical sounding. But again, I tried to use the same thing. I tried to first do the bass line going down. And then on the second time around, I tried to make the bass line go up, still sort of following the chord tones, but go up. And I think it sounds cool. And maybe some of you guys are thinking, okay, but how did he get that melody? Or how did he get that bass line? How does he know which sort of notes work, which sort of notes don't work, which rhythm to choose? And most importantly, is the thinking about theory. Well, I don't mean to sound like a douche, but it all comes from here. I'm honestly just listening and saying, okay, I think this part sounds good, I think this part doesn't sound good. And even if sometimes I'm not picturing any sort of notes, I have an idea. Like in this case, for instance, I knew I wanted to make the first riff, but make it a little bit slower and do that sort of classical guitar thing. So I thought, okay, I need to first break down the melody a little bit, then I need to add some bass lines. But then I thought, okay, since the intro is that part that we've done once, then we haven't really done a callback to it, or haven't really done much with it. Maybe instead of doing a regular bass line, I should perhaps do the bass line inspired by the chords of the intro. And that's basically what I did here. I either took the root note or the lowest note of the chords on the intro, and then did them on halftime, and then just pasted them in. But then because I wanted it to have this sort of swing-ish vibe, instead of just doing half notes, I decided to do a dotted quarter note with an extra eighth note. And depending on what I was audiating, sometimes that eighth note is just the same note. Like in this case, we started out with a C, and then that pickup note is still a C. But in the next case, we have a B, and the pickup note is not exactly a B, it's a G, just because the melody note in that part is a C. And if I played a C along with a B, it would sound a little bit weird. So I went for a G, because in this case I'm sort of feeling it like this is a C minor chord and this is a G major chord. and we're starting on the 3rd of G, and then we're going to the root of G, and because G is the 5th of C and C is the 4th of G, I guess it can sort of work. And then there's this little part right here. I wanted the bass line to sort of follow the rhythm of the melody so that maybe when we're recording it we can either add some drums or percussion doing this little rhythm of ba ba ba. I think it will sound cool. And in this part again I tried to do this sort of contrary motion that we did on the intro with the bass line going up, and in a way it sort of works the same way. We have a C, the root of C minor, we have a D, which is the 5th of G, but because I know that not all chords exactly line up, I was just thinking, okay, maybe instead of me worrying too much about following the intro, I'm just trying to invoke that sort of a feeling, so I'll try to use the same notes as the intro, but when it doesn't work, I won't really bother much without it, because I think the melody sounds cool, and I still want it to sound reasonably fine. And this part again, the bass line follows the rhythm of the melody, which I think sounds cool. Again, we can do some toms or something like it. I think it will sound cool. And there's an interesting part, which is this part right here, where the bass line goes to an E when we're playing C and Gs. And you might be thinking, well, but having an E against a C and a G will make a C major chord, but aren't we in C minor? Well, yes, we are. But again, this is sort of that important part I mentioned to you before of me trying to do something that kind of be played on a classical guitar. A standard guitar tuning is an E, so the lowest note we have is an E, and for us to imply a C minor, we'd have to do an E flat, and I don't really want to downtune the guitar. I think it would sound interesting. We're playing B flat, which is the 5th of E flat, then we're going for the G, which is the 3rd of E flat, and we have again the pickup note, which is an F, and the rules would say, okay, you go to an E flat, and it would not only line up right with whatever you had before with the bass lines and the melody, but it would also work fine because you have a C minor thing next, and by having the bass note as an E flat, you would have that C minor sound, and it would line up with the melody. But again, that F can also resolve to an E, and we can do that sort of E major sound. And again, I think it works well because it gives us an interesting sound. Let's go from that last part. In a way, it's a sort of parallel modulation, but let's not get into that much right now. But yeah, I think it sounds cool. I don't know about you guys, but after this, I think that maybe we should go back to the main riff that we did as a bridge between the first verse and first chorus, or if we should perhaps lean into more of the bridge between the first chorus and the second verse. But again, that's something that I'll do in the next episode, because we're going to end this episode right here, and we'll worry about the next part next week for the next episode. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. Did you like this episode? And was there something I missed or something I should have said? Or maybe something that you didn't quite get? Again, leave it in the comment section below and I'll either respond to you in the comments or I'll address it in the next episode. And again, like I usually say in these sorts of videos, if you want to take either a melody or a riff from this song and either try to apply it on your own or do your own version, again, please do, be free to do it. But please post it on Instagram or YouTube and tag me on it, because I'd really like to see and share what you guys can come up with. But yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow me on social media, and if you can share this video on social media, I'd highly appreciate it. If you guys could perhaps check out some of my other videos after this one, I'd highly appreciate it. Again, not only do I do composing videos like this, again I have this series where I compose this song, but there's also some other videos with tips and tricks and how to apply chords and music theory and stuff like that. And for those of you guitar players, not only do I do guitar lessons talking about soloing and improvising and playing out of the box, but also technique and how to apply music theory, or even sometimes I transcribe a lick that I either think is interesting, or the lick itself is a little bit different from what whoever played the lick usually plays. And I also have this series called Bass Tricks for Guitar, because for those who don't really know, I actually started out as a bass player and gigged around for a couple of years before I eventually moved on to guitar. So when I came to my guitar playing, I guess I brought some things from my bass playing that maybe some of you who didn't really start out on bass either don't think about or don't think about consciously. So if you want to check that series out, I highly think you should. Again, if you didn't really start out on bass, there's probably something you can learn from it. And if you have any suggestions for videos, I have this dedicated series called The 8, You Ask I Teach. I know, Pretty boring, generic, and self-explanatory title, but as you can probably guess, and as the name implies, in that series I pretty much teach anything you guys leave in the comment section below that is music or guitar related, of course. So if there's something you want me to talk about, just leave it in the comment section below with the hashtag #8. And for those of you guitar players, I also do this series called Guitarist Week. You can think about it as a sort of news segment thing, but instead of me talking about every single thing that happened last week in the guitar/music industry, I just talk about things that I thought were particularly interesting, funny, or at least discussion worthy. So go check it out if you're into that sort of a thing. All the videos I've mentioned will be on the card section right there. And I could keep going, but you're probably already a little bit tired of me, and I've been probably rambling for the past minutes, so let's just end it with this. Cheers!